Friday, Nick Noggs. Welcome to the latest edition of Burn It Down with Kim Brown. I'm so happy and excited to see your smiling face up in the place. Listen, we got a fantastic program on deck for you today. I know you see what the name of the show is, right? We clapping at Barack Obama. Steady. We're going to drop bows on Obama. We coming at Obama with feats, everything, okay? Because your man's Barack, and I say y'all's man's, because that's not my man's. Y'all's boy, Barack Obama, has been out here on a revisionist history tour. He's got a brand new best-selling book, which is, of course, breaking records, sitting on top of the bestseller list, et cetera, et cetera. But he is out here trying to rewrite the 8 years that he was in power. And we are here today to let him know that, sir, we remember, okay? We never forget. Winter is coming. So we have a fantastic smackdown. Let's call it a tag teaming, if you will, ready for the former president. We are joined today with Taure Brown, sociologist out of North Carolina. We're also joined today with Onyesonwu Chatoyer. I hope sister gets on with us from the Hood Communism blog. That's coming up a little later on the show. But first, we're going to start off with really a very violent story of police brutality that came out of Los Angeles the day before Thanksgiving. I'm not sure if you saw this. I'm not really clear on how well this made the rounds along mainstream media cycles or even along social media, but I happened to catch it, and I definitely wanted to make sure that I brought it to y'all's attention. So out in Los Angeles, there is roughly a dozen or so homes, right, that were sitting vacant. They were I guess, seized by the state of California as part of eminent domain for a highway project that ended up never coming to be. So these empty homes were just sitting vacant, literally rotting. Nobody was in them. So we know that California is experiencing a deadly spike of the coronavirus. They are under shelter-in-place orders in that area. So a number of unhoused families decided to occupy these homes. Again, the houses were empty. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the day before Thanksgiving, police show up to forcibly evict these residents. And that's where we're going to pick up the story. We are joined right now from Los Angeles with a friend of the show, Ricci Sergienko from the People City Council, one of the big activist groups out there in LA who have all the smoke for not only Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti, but California Governor Gavin Newsom. And Richie joins us today from Los Angeles. Hello, love. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
Well, of course, Richie, you know, I'm so inspired by the work of groups like People City Council and other activist organizations out there in Los Angeles, not only for giving the politicians and the police all the smoke that they fucking deserve, but you guys are bearing witness to police brutality in a myriad of ways. And even though this was not an issue of police violence where someone ended up losing their life, but it could potentially go that way. Help me fill in the blanks about what happened the day before Thanksgiving. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy scene. I had just gotten out there at night, but I think you laid the groundwork pretty well. Like these homes were owned by the state. You know, they had been sitting empty for about almost 20 years, some of them. And they were originally claimed for a highway project, like you said, but they're not being used for that anymore. And we are living in the middle of a pandemic, and there in the city of Los Angeles, there are about like 45,000 unhoused people. In the county, there's 60,000. So, you know, how are the unsheltered supposed to shelter in place, given that there's a new shelter in place order instituted by the city this week, right? And so these families who live in that community, those houses are in the community that these families are from. They decided to occupy those homes because we're in the middle of the pandemic, and you know, we know that one of the things to help during the spread to help stop the spread of COVID is people who seek shelter, or excuse me, people who are able to stay in their shelter. But instead of allowing people to stay in shelter in the communities that they live in the middle of a pandemic where we have record highs in Los Angeles, like right now, we are seeing like 5,000 new COVID cases a day. It's insane. But the night before Thanksgiving, California Highway Patrol went into about 15 homes, and they forcibly removed families from those homes, and they used battering rams to take down the doors, and they marched into those homes with their assault rifles drawn. It was a pretty cruel scene to actually see it. I was pretty distraught seeing a 17-year-old being dragged out of the house by two officers. It was pretty disgusting scene.
Richie, so like I said, you were there on the scene when this happened, and you took amazing video. Your photojournalism skills, sir, are pretty good. I want us to take a look at this montage of videos, not only from the People's City Council, but other journalists who were there on the scene, streamers, et cetera, people who have been covering these actions. So this is a montage of different clips. So let me set this up for you. So the first clip we're going to see is actually a press conference, impromptu press conference from a woman who is a resident in one of these homes. And she's asking California Governor Gavin Newsom not to evict them in a fucking pandemic. Unbelievable. And then we'll go in to see the pictures that you shot, Richie, of the police violence, and then how the community came out to tell the police to get the fuck out the neighborhood. So let's take a look at that video if we can.
Yeah, we're out here as part of Reclaim and Rebuilding Our Homes, and we are supporting the families who are looking to safely shelter in place in these abandoned homes that are owned by the state. We feel that amidst the global pandemic, it is irresponsible and inhumane for our state to be hoarding over 170 homes, while there are houseless people minutes away from here on Huntington Drive, and over 66,000 people houseless right now in the city of LA.
Sorry, step this way, it'll still hear you. Yeah, perfect.
And we're here to ask Governor Newsom to please direct all law enforcement to stand down, to not use or inflict violence on the families who are looking to shelter in place, to allow them to safely stay in these homes so that they may be safe, especially through these holidays. And we ask him to please ask all law enforcement to not forcibly evict these families. And we're hoping that we can have these homes be a part of a community land trust so that they can be properly used to house families, and so that they may be rebuilt, and that we can bring life and love back into these homes.
There's no weapons in the home.
Sonia, open the door for them.
That's illegal.
They're opening it right now.
Quarantine.
Move out of the way, Sonia.
What do you need weapons for?
We have no weapons.
They're unarmed. They're unarmed. They're unarmed.
Fuck you! Fuck you! How fucking dare you! Fuck you! Yeah! Fuck you guys! Piece of fucking shit! Every single one of you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Get back! 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 Get out the way! Get out the way! Get out the way! Move, bitch! Get out the way! Get out the way, bitch! Get out the way!
Remarkable pictures there, Richie, that you shot. I'm so encouraged to see the community show up and stand up for those families against the police. And the very next day, activists gathered outside of Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti's home. I know that's your favorite guy. You love Eric Garcetti. You Garcetti 2022 out there. I'm joking because Richie hates Garcetti. But I loved how y'all showed up at his house. Dwayne, let's play that next montage, please.
Wake up, Eric! 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 Hey, fuck Garcetti! Hey, stand down, Babylon, black people are the bomb, we ready! Hey, fuck Garcetti! Hey, stand down, Babylon, black people are the bomb, we ready! Hey, fuck Garcetti!
Liberal white supremacy is not better.
Yeah.
Liberal white supremacy is not better. Liberal white supremacy is what brings us ever expanding skid rows. Liberal white supremacy is what brings us unfunded bus systems because they carry working class black and brown people. Liberal white supremacy is what allows them to murder people like Rashario Mack inside Crenshaw Baldwin Hills Mall because he was having a mental health issue. Liberal white supremacy excuses the murders of 14-year-old boys like Jesse Romero, who wasn't doing shit that other 14-year-old children do, right? And so we need to say fuck liberal white supremacy too. Fuck liberal white supremacy too. Ashe?
Ashe.
Fuck liberal white supremacy too. Richie, talk to us about what the conditions are in California and Los Angeles, more specifically, under Democratic control. I mean, you got a Democratic mayor, you got probably mostly Democratic city council, and yet the COVID crisis is spiraling out of control. The mayor is putting in specific orders targeting protesters because he didn't want y'all at his house. So he came up with this brand new shelter-in-place order that basically only targets protesters as the unhoused numbers also escalate out of control in Los Angeles. Talk to us about what the fuck is going on there, and what are y'all doing in response beyond what you're already doing, which is amazing work.
So yeah, thank you. No, we so today was day 11 of the Block Garcetti protests outside of his house. We've been out there every single day with Black Lives Matter LA, basically just trying to drum up a bunch of noise. That Joe Biden shouldn't appoint Eric Garcetti to a cabinet position. He's being considered for housing secretary and transportation secretary right now. I mean, and it's kind of ridiculous because, Los Angeles is known for having such bad traffic and inadequate public transportation. So considering him for transportation secretary is just ridiculous. But then also to be considered for housing secretary is almost just a slap in the face to anyone who pays attention to anything in Los Angeles. Like I said earlier, there's 45,000 unhoused people who live on the streets in Los Angeles. That has actually grown by almost double the size of the unhoused population 7 years ago when Garcetti took office. It has grown twice as big during his 7 years. And then 4 unhoused people die a day. And it's like, and these numbers are growing. We're at like 1,200 people a day in 2020. And it's just incredibly sad. And why the fuck would this person be the head of housing at a national level when we have a housing crisis in Los Angeles? And so we've been out there and, obviously his $3 billion militarized police force, the LAPD, has shown up and tried to silence us. And especially, these protests are led by Black Lives Matter LA. And, they look for any opportunity to go silence Black and brown people, especially activists who dare to stand up and say anything. So the first day we were there, we actually got pinned down. We got kettled from both sides by the police. And so, yeah, he gives $3 billion to the police. Like Dr. Molina said in that clip you showed, he upholds liberal white supremacy. He may say all of the right things. He may try to craft some narrative that he's a progressive, but when you give $3 billion to police and they continue to harass, brutalize, and terrorize Black and brown communities in Los Angeles, you aren't you aren't a progressive. You're a fraud. You're a coward, spineless bastard like Eric Garcetti, who upholds liberal white supremacy and doesn't care about the racist system of policing.
And Richie, of course, I follow People's City Council on social media, and you had shared some information about how earlier in the year, members of Black Lives Matter LA and other activist groups had met with the mayor, or at least presented to him a proposed people's budget about how defunding the police can actually be a thing, but how this other money can be reallocated into programs that benefit the public as a whole. What is the status of the defund the police movement out there? Because I know you've been participating on some of the city council, budget hearings that they've been holding online. Are any of the members there feeling the pressure to defund the police, or is there still a lot of resistance?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, to your first point, Black Lives Matter leads the People's Budget LA coalition, and they did give a presentation to City Council earlier in the summer about the People's Budget, where we had over 24,000 Angelinos fill out a survey, and the results came back saying that 98% of the survey respondents wanted to decrease, or we'll call that defund the police. They wanted 98% of the respondents want to decrease the police budget, which is defunding the police, a means of spreading our budget resources elsewhere. And fortunately, in Los Angeles, Nithya Raman defeated David Rue for a city council seat. Nithya Raman is a supporter of the People's Budget. David Rue was backed by the police unions. So that was a big win for us. But, they're trying to slow play things. And, I do want to make this point. A few weeks ago, there was a motion proposed by Councilmember Joe Buscaino to criminalize laying, sitting, or sleeping on the sidewalk in Los Angeles. And procedurally, usually that kind of motion would go to a committee, and the committee would have discussions, there'd be public hearings, blah, 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 and then it would go to City Council. Instead, that motion to criminalize homelessness in Los Angeles skipped the committee, bypassed the committee with the acceptance of City Council President Nuri Martinez and Mitch O'Farrell. So they bypassed that whole process. But with the defunding the police measures, they have sent it back to saying, these committees are going to hold hearings on it. We're going to have a huge public discussion about it. But when the opportunity comes to criminalize homelessness, that is just pushed through. And so we are keeping the pressure on as much as possible. But these fucking cowardly, elected officials they don't want to bring the necessary change as quickly as we want. They want to drag it out. But if elected officials want to fight, then we'll give it to them.
Give it to them, Richie. Keep showing up at their house 6 o'clock in the morning, banging pots and pans. I love to see the actions from the People's City Council, because you know what? These politicians need to understand that, the shit ain't all good. And if you are not going to at least listen to the people, implement their suggestions and their policy proposals, then we're going to show up at your motherfucking house and wake your ass up. And that ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing illegal about that. Ricci Sergienko from the People's City Council, thank you so much for joining us. Keep up the good work and defund the police. And what else we got to say to them people, Richie?
Fuck Garcetti.
That's right. Thank you, Richie. I appreciate you making time.
I appreciate you.
Always.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Always, sir. Appreciate that. Hey, listen, folks, we still want to hear from you in the chat and in the comments. I think we got a couple comments on here. Hold on. Let me read some of the comments. My man, Prince of Judah, friend of the show, Prince of Judah 79 says, "This is your country, America." Yes, look at them good liberal Democrats. Eric Garcetti, Gavin Newsom, putting unhoused people out of empty houses the day before Thanksgiving, using the California Highway Patrol, who had battering rams and assault rifles, to evict unarmed, unhoused people. That is that harm reduction that I must keep hearing about that Democrats bring to us. Well, speaking of Democrats and harm reduction, or actually lack thereof, your man's President Barack Obama, 44, has been out here talking real reckless and misremembering things way badly, in addition to diminishing what activists out on the streets right now are doing. I know y'all saw the thing that was circulated all around social media where Obama called defund the police a snappy slogan. This from Mr. Yes We Can. This from Mr. Hope and Change. Defund the police is a policy mandate. I don't know what the fuck Yes We Can is. But to join us today to talk about Barack Obama, really, we just here to beat up on Barack. And if you're a Barack Obama fan, maybe this is not the conversation for you, because we are here to demystify this magical Negro. We are joined today with a friend of the show, Taure Brown, sociologist, joining us today from North Carolina. Taure, so happy to see you with us today. And we're also joined with Onyesonwu Chatoyer. Onyesonwu joins us today from the Hood Communism blog. Onyesonwu is also with the All-African People's Revolutionary Party and doing a lot of work with the All-African Women's Revolutionary Union. So I am so excited to have you both joining us today for this much needed discussion. And I think the place where we ought to start, you know, President Obama's been making the rounds. He's done the Breakfast Club. He did Colbert Show. You know, he's all over the place. And that's where we're going to lead off. So I have a little montage of Obama clips. But we're going to lead off, I believe, I hope, with the one from his appearance recently on the Breakfast Club. And then we travel back in time to listen to some of Obama's greatest hits or his greatest misses, depending on your point of view. So Dwayne, if we could get that montage rolling, sir, thank you so much.
The good news for me was that I was very confident in what I had done for Black folks because I had the statistics to prove it, right? So by the time I left office, you had seen 3 million African Americans have health care that didn't have it before. You had seen the incarceration rate, the number of Black folks in prison drop for the first time in years. You had seen the juvenile correction system, 30% fewer people in there. You had seen Black poverty drop to its lowest level since 1968. You had seen Black businesses rise. You had seen Black income go up. So I could just look at the data and I could say millions of Black folks were better off at the time I left office than when I came in.
Our military mission in Libya is clear and focused. Along with our allies and partners, we're enforcing the mandate of the United Nations Security Council. We're protecting the Libyan people from Gaddafi's forces. And we've put in place a no-fly zone and other measures to prevent further atrocities. We're succeeding in our mission. We've taken out Libya's air defenses. Gaddafi's forces are no longer advancing across Libya. In places like Benghazi, a city of some 700,000 that Gaddafi threatened to show no mercy, his forces have been pushed back. So make no mistake, because we acted quickly, a humanitarian catastrophe has been avoided and the lives of countless civilians, innocent men, women, and children have been saved.
You know, generally I have not been doing stunts here, but, you know, and this used a filter. You know, the water around this table, you know, was Flint water that was filtered. And it just confirms what we know scientifically, which is that if you're using a filter, if you're installing it, then Flint water at this point is drinkable.
Obviously, our thoughts continue to be with the family of Freddie Gray. Understandably, they want answers. And DOJ has opened an investigation. It is working with local law enforcement to find out exactly what happened, and I think there should be full transparency and accountability. Second, my thoughts are with the police officers who were injured in last night's disturbances. It underscores that that's a tough job. And we have to keep that in mind. And my hope is that they can heal and get back to work as soon as possible. Point number 3, there's no excuse for the kind of violence that we saw yesterday. It is counterproductive. When individuals get crowbars and start prying open doors to loot, they're not protesting. They're not making a statement. They're stealing. To those who think that what happened in Ferguson is an excuse for violence, I do not have any sympathy for that. I have no sympathy at all for destroying your own communities. But for the overwhelming majority of people who just feel frustrated and pained because they get a sense that maybe some communities aren't treated fairly or some individuals aren't seen as worthy as others, I understand that. And I want to work with you, and I want to move forward with you.
Oh, child. Jeez. Aren't you exhausted? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to wear y'all out with all that chicanery that just came out of the mouth of Barack Obama. But I mean, I'm sitting here taking notes, and I knew what the hell we was looking at. I mean, he did more for Black people. You could check the stats. Libya is safe from a humanitarian disaster. False. Flint water safe to drink. Also false. And Obama is quite proud of himself as a crusher of leftist movements. Tory, let me start with you. What is your man Barack out here talking about?
Whoa. that big ear Negro is not my man. Nah, no president of any U.S. empire is ever my friend. But in 2008, I thought he was one of the greatest things since sliced bread. Because he validated what I felt was something inferior about myself, being Black in a world that says that you're less than. But nonetheless, man, I haven't watched those clips in so long. I really forgot how much of a white, like he's just like this old white conservative man, just saying really white supremacist ass shit. And it's unfortunate that his performance has fooled so many people for so long, but I'm just so thankful that so many people are now waking up to see how full of shit he really is. The thing that tripped me out when he was on the Breakfast Club, when he's talking about these stats like poverty, income, Black businesses. I mean, if you're just taking these raw stats for as it is, Donald Trump could make the same argument, right? He never talked about what he specifically did to either impact these kind of things. He never even mentioned any real policies. He, of course, didn't mention the actual inequalities that exist between, if you're talking about income, all these kind of other things, right? I don't expect him to. I know why he didn't. But this is what we need to look at when he's talking about what he did for Black people and how well off Black folks are. And past just the numbers, what's the qualitative understanding of it, right? Because we know the stories. We know what happened. We know the stories of mothers that can't feed their children. We know the stories of people being killed in the streets. We know all of these things. So it's just unfortunate that it's taken so long for so many people to realize, but I understand this is his job, right? His job is to provide misinformation as he serves the interests of the U.S. empire. His job is to serve capitalism.
Onyesonwu, let me get your take on the clips that we just watched, and let me get your perspective about Obama really priding himself, seemingly, to be a destabilizer of people movements, right? It was under his Department of Justice, the FBI cleared Zuccotti Park for the Occupy Wall Street movement in 2012. You heard how he disparaged Ferguson activists and people who took to the streets in the Baltimore uprisings after the police murder of Freddie Gray, and defended the police, which, by the way, if y'all have not checked out that extensive consent decree that the Baltimore Police Department is under, to read some of the conduct of how Baltimore Police Department conducted themselves in the community, it's eye-opening, to say the least. But let me get your take, huh?
Yeah, I agree. I haven't seen a lot of those clips in a long time as well. They definitely raised my blood pressure. I was like, this man is just bald-faced lying with a smile on his face. just like playing in our faces boldly. So yes, I do not care for him as a person. I think that he is very aware of the role that he plays. And that is as like a part of a strategy of counterinsurgency, specifically targeting African people. When I say African people, I mean Black folks, because he knows the great affection that we have for him as a collective. It's coming from like intrinsic nationalist sentiment we have, that we see someone that looks like us, we assume he's on our side, we like ride for him. And he knows that. But like he personally, I don't believe that he particularly cares for African people or colonized people or oppressed people in any kind of way. Because when you look at his time in office, when you look at how he empowered police, how he gave them millions of dollars in military weapons that were then used to attack poor and working class African and colonized people who are protesting police violence. When you look at, you know, Libya, Honduras, Haiti, all of these places that are majority poor and brown, you see that he does not and has never felt any kind of like solidarity with us, any kind of like affinity for us. And so he just like, he uses his identity to tell us what to do, to engage in like respectability politics. And he knows that the majority of us are going to listen. And it's just it's like very cynical, really frustrating and disgusting. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. And, you know, Barack has a very bad habit of talking down to Black people in a variety of ways. I was really trying to find the clip when he spoke at the Morehouse commencement, where he told this large group of now college graduates to pull their pants up. Like, you ain't these people's daddy, sir. Shut the fuck up. Nobody asked you, Obama. But I wanted to get back to what was kind of the big thing circulating around social media this week pertaining to Obama. And that was him calling defund the police a snappy slogan. And I meant to pull the tweet. Damn it, I forgot. But that one tweet from the Hill that really made the rounds, where Ilhan Omar and Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, like everybody got in and took a shot, like lined up to drop an elbow on Barack Obama and his tremendous sense of disconnection from this movement that is growing, this movement that is even producing fruit. If you look at what's happening out in Seattle, the Seattle City Council approved, I believe it was, a 20% reduction in the Seattle Police Department's budget. So that's, you know, something. The good people at Black Visions Collective up in Minnesota, MPD 150, you know, Reclaim the Block, they're doing amazing work also. But Taure, I mean, Obama is failing to read the room here. Defund the police is what the people are calling for. This is why people have been out in the streets all summer long, all year long. And he reduced it to a snappy slogan. Why did he do that?
Well, I think the reason why he did it is because his rulers told him, boy, you better get out there, because they believing in this shit. They starting to put things together, right? His job, like we've been talking about, is to crush social movements, is to delegitimize ideas, especially ideas that are threatening to the U.S. structure, U.S. imperialism, U.S. capitalism, right? So that's what his job is, to delegitimize those kind of things. He was able to sit quiet for these last 4 years because they were able to blame everything on Trump. Trump was to be the focus of all. But now that Trump is at least on his way out, or people don't see him as much of a threat anymore because he doesn't sit at the throne or the throne of the U.S. empire, Barack has to get in and go ahead and delegitimize the folks who are going to criticize Biden, right, and criticize the entire kind of structure. So even when we're talking about defund the police, and he wants the people to believe the idea that change, that progress is made by sitting down and compromising with the people who are oppressing you, with the ideas that are oppressing you. But the only way you really create progress is through struggle. Right. And it's not through what's popular. It's struggling, like Kwame Ture said, it's like struggling against lies, right? To be able to find the truth. So it's not like he did something popular. MLK, it wasn't popular for him to go against the war, but he did, right? Because that was the truth. He understood that. And that's how change starts to happen. And I'm not just saying that change happens on this individual level, but again, Barack's job is just to delegitimize ideas and to crush movements. And that's what he's doing.
Onya, so when we look at Obama's legacy, I mean, because basically, I mean, that's what this book is. His new book, A Promised Land, is all about protecting his legacy. And, you know, given his record, you know, he is out here standing on that representation mantle. I was the first Black president. You know, y'all y'all look at my lovely wife, the first, Black first lady, the first, Black children to grow up in the White House, but the representation mantle, like it has to fall away at some point. When we look back and examine his record, pop up that Intercept article for me, Dwayne, because, Black people did not fare so great under Barack Obama. And even considering what he inherited in terms of a cratering economy at the end of the W. Bush years, when it was all said and done, Black folks lost housing, they lost health. He says that more Black people gained health coverage under the Affordable Care Act, which in part may be true, but many people would say that their premiums, copays, and a myriad of other costs definitely went up. In that Breakfast Club interview, Obama made the point that some of the Republican-controlled states did not accept the Medicare expansion. Okay, we get it. But talk to me about his argument that he makes that, he was not able to do specific things for Black America. I'm calling bullshit on that.
I mean, he said out the gate that he wasn't going to. So the idea that he had his hands tied and he wanted to and he just wasn't able to is not true, because he said even before he was elected that he was not going to be a president just for African people. He's going to be a president for all of us. And that was him letting us know that I'm not giving you anything and you're going to like it. So yeah, the idea that he's like trying to like rewrite history and be like, I tried, but those Republicans is just very insulting. And the only reason that he's able to do that is because people, the US electorate is trained not to really pay close attention to the functioning of the government. And so people are able to do very egregious things and then have it be forgotten within like a week or 2 weeks, the next news cycle, So he's really taking advantage of, to be honest, like the lack of consciousness, lack of class consciousness, lack of like anti-imperialist consciousness that exists among voters in the US to be able to do like really bold, messed up things and then just say, I was actually trying to help.
Let me see if I can try to get y'all's take on this, because, we spend a decent amount of time on social media, right? But the real world is not Twitter. Chances are your actual real life circle or people that you encounter or your family members or, parts of your extended community may not view Obama with the same sort of disdain that the rest of us do. And there's still a lot of reverence for Obama, a whole lot of, he had a Republican-controlled Congress for most of his term. He couldn't do what he wanted to do. My mom is in her 70s, and I was hanging out with her this week. And when I hang out with my mother, I end up listening to a lot of Al Sharpton because she's a big Al Sharpton fan. So Al Sharpton this week on his radio show made a point that, all this attacks from within on the left, like we shouldn't be attacking one another when Trump is out here literally trying to upend the Constitution and trying to steal an election, which Trump still has not conceded the election. And, some outrageous things are being suggested from the Trump camp in about ways for him to try to stay into power. So there's a sort of an existential threat that still is Donald Trump. Is it a useful exercise to try to correct the record on Barack Obama and get in his ass when he is flat out wrong about policy demands like defund the police? Taure, let me start with you.
When we talk about the left, right? Who's the left? Because if we're talking about being opposed to Trump as being separate, right? When I'm talking about who are you against? I'm against the U.S. empire. I'm against capitalism, U.S. imperialism, right? So that includes the Democratic Party. That includes the Conservative Party. I understand that the state is just a tool that the U.S. the rulers use, right, for the most part. And there's also a place of struggle where we try to get a little bit of power to improve conditions. But as far as Obama, like I said, with defund the police, again, he understands that it's critical to have the police as far as if you want to maintain your power. They need the police. But he wants to, again, just confuse people and think that they also need the police to stay safe. And it's just pretty ironic, too, that he claims to listen to Black women and other folks and care about all these kind of people when those are the exact people who are writing about defund the police and how it's connected to abolition and why it's important and using data and all these kind of things. I mean, he just kind of totally ignores those things because he doesn't care.
Onyesonwu, let me get your take on that. I mean, not everybody is there yet, right? Not everybody is there on defund the police, and not everybody is there on an honest reckoning of how Barack Obama fared as a president, not only as a whole, but as it pertains specifically to Black America.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Tori's point about, the anti-Trump resistance was a very big tent. It is a very big tent. I remember when they were rallying around James Comey, former director of the FBI, talking about he was a leader. I remember all that stuff, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like the FBI killed Fred Hampton. So it was too big a tent.
They killed me with that. I was like, "Hold on, are these Black people actually taking up for the FBI and the fucking CIA?" I'm like, "Have you inverse lost your mind?" But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So yeah, just the idea that Trump is such an existential threat. They have to unite with the FBI and the CIA and the U.S. security apparatus. No, thank you. First of all, I don't actually think that Trump represents a unique, separate threat when seen against the history of the U.S. empire, against the history of all the prior U.S. presidents. I think that it's really important, especially for folks who fear Trump so intensely, to identify how people like Barack Obama laid the path for him, made it possible for Trump to be as destructive as he was. If you hate Trump, wait till you hear how Barack Obama built this this immigration infrastructure in the United States, which is implicitly white nationalist, that Trump is using right now. So if you're scared of Trump, then you have to understand how we got here. And that's the angle I always use, is to say these people that came before him made him possible. They enabled him. And when he won, Barack Obama handed over the keys. He didn't fight that. And then he disappeared for 4 years until Bernie Sanders looked like he was going to win. So it's just yeah, I feel you absolutely can make the connection. You got to point out how these people made Trump possible and how they're going to make a worse Trump show up.
Yeah. I want you to kind of elaborate on that if you could, because that is a very significant point that I do not want us to forget, because Bernie was rolling, right? Bernie was doing the damn thing. Bernie had the primaries popping. And all of a sudden, here come, the Django, Obama and James Clyburn, really put the brakes on that Bernie train, in addition to the fact that the NBA players were ready to strike on behalf of the movement of Black lives, and Barack Obama talked them down. I was aghast at some of that. But speak on the Bernie thing, if you could, for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly the role. Yeah, it's the role that Taure said he's meant to play. He destroys movements. So Bernie Sanders, I have critiques. He's not anti-imperialist, but he was a progressive figure. He was pushing progressive policies in the United States, calling them socialism. And the ruling class was like, no, thank you. We don't want that at all. And Barack Obama was like, word, I got you. We're going to kill this right now. I really feel the only reason Joe Biden got in the race in the first place was to take out Bernie Sanders. And when it was clear that he wasn't going to be able to do it by himself, Barack Obama came in and was like, let's do this. And was able to do it alongside Clyburn in South Carolina. But we really have to understand that Bernie Sanders was just offering kinder, gentler capitalism. And the ruling class and their servant Barack Obama destroyed that, smashed it decisively. And now we're in the middle of a pandemic. And the person who won the election, who was supposed to be the anti-fascist option, is against universal healthcare. So people lost quite a bit when Barack Obama was deployed. And he's not really getting the smoke that he should for that.
Tori, over the summer, it was amazing. After the shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin, I believe it was the Milwaukee Bucks who were leading the way on a work stoppage in the NBA. They refused to come out and play the game. And, that week, a number of teams followed, and there was seemingly this very genuine interest in solidarity with the people who are out in the streets. These young Black millionaires, these young ballers was like, no, this is us too. We want to be a part of that. And then here come fucking Obama and fucked it up. We had never seen a work stoppage in the NBA like that behind a social movement like this. Why did Obama discourage these young men and basically put a stop to something that really could have been so historic and so impactful?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the danger, think about what the danger was. These these boys, I mean, some of them are boys, right? But young men recognize that they're workers and that their organized power, as organized, them being organized, has power. And that's a dangerous idea because it can spread to other folks. You don't have to be in the NBA, but a lot of people who are still in the workforce or even not in the workforce may recognize like, yo, we can get together. We can get together and do things and make changes, right? And that was dangerous because, again, they were connecting their organized power, and Obama had to pump the brakes on that because he didn't want, everybody else who's at the factories or somewhere else to say, you know what, we're not gonna work until these XY things happen, right? That was a dangerous idea. So Obama again had to come in and crush this idea, delegitimize it, season it up well and say, look, the best way to create change is to get out and use your vote, right? Again, these are the means that the U.S. Ruling class gives folks to think that that's where their power is, that their power is only beholden into electoral politics, and that change only happens through this slow, incremental process, right? And we have to celebrate these small tidbits of progress. So that's why it was so dangerous and why he had to come in, because of the idea at the heart of it.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. Obama, no drama Obama, but still, and a lot of people were looking at the possibility of that NBA labor stoppage as something that could have been the catalyst to precipitating a general strike nationwide. Obama said, nope, we cannot have that. But a lot of people are looking ahead to the Biden-Harris administration. Many are calling it the Obama third term, so to speak. And, a lot of the same things are very much on the table. Joe Biden has expressed his desire to still support police with an additional $300 million in funding, still claiming that reform is the answer to police violence and brutality. At the same breath, Biden over the summer condemned a lot of the demonstrations and protesters as being violent, but never acknowledging that the reason that these demonstrations perhaps sometimes turn violent is because of the violence that was initiated against these communities. So that is generally the response, but somehow the politicians, that just seems to go over their head deliberately in a lot of ways. Onyesonwu, I wanted to get your take about, all the talk about pushing the Biden administration to the left in advance of inauguration, which they are clearly resisting by some of the choices that they're making in terms of like cabinet picks, or even some of the people that are being floated, like Rahm Emanuel, like Eric Garcetti, like a lot of these other worthless Bamas who we cannot stand. What does the movement, what do people who are doing the work of abolition, who are doing the work of defund the police, abolishing the police, housing for all, Medicare for all, what needs to be done in order to get Joe Biden, I can't even say on the right side of things, because that's not even an option probably. But are we going to have to start primarying Congresspeople immediately in 2 years? What are the ways to go forward to make sure that a progressive agenda is at least included in what the Biden-Harris administration plans to do?
I think folks have to take as an adversarial position towards Biden as they did to Trump. One positive thing about the Trump administration is that folks were very clear on that president being the enemy. There was no like, oh, we can get a seat at the table, we can negotiate, let's compromise. They were like, we hate this man, he's racist, he's Hitler, we're not working with him, for the most part. And I think that Biden has no intention whatsoever of being pushed to the left. And he has made that very clear. He has telegraphed that in many ways. He has stated it explicitly that was a strategy for winning the campaign. So he's going to stick to it. And you can see how immediately after the election, they began attacking the progressive wing of the Democrats. This is the strategy they're going with. And so I really think that folks have to be out the gate adversarial, that they have to be uncompromising about the principles of these movements. That one of the, we have to recognize that like the Obama administration was extremely effective at not just like overtly attacking movements with like militarized police and surveillance, but they were also really effective at like the soft power, like manipulation style. They were like, yes, come to the White House, sit on this task force, get these grants. And they use that as like subtle tactics of co-optation and manipulation that were extremely effective, especially if you look at like the movement for Black Lives, right? So I think that folks got to recognize the strategy And they have to go in saying, these are not our friends. These are our class enemies. We have to be relentless and uncompromising about what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is such an important point, because I feel like, people who may have gone to some of these meetings with Obama when he was in the White House just were really had their agenda neutralized because they were so dazzled perhaps by the star power of the Obama White House and all the, famous Black names that you were coming out and having big parties at the White House. Don't you want to come party with Common and Stevie Wonder? You know what I mean? That has a lot of appeal to people. And they would be like, oh, well, maybe we can table some of these things because I like to have my picture taken at the White House too. I wanted to read some comments, y'all. We're getting a lot of comments in the comments. Emperor Ibex said, I'm glad I found this community of like-minded people. I felt this way for a while, but couldn't verbalize it well. Hey, I want y'all to talk about it's not always a safe space to criticize the Obamas in the Black community because, like I said before, if you're on social media or if you're with, your circle of like-minded people, y'all probably have the same opinion about the president. But in the wider Black community, you better not say nothing bad about Barack Obama. Barack Obama, walk on water. Taure, how do we coax some of our elders who are perhaps Democratic loyalists, people who believe in the Democratic Party and will support the Democratic Party and have supported the Democratic Party, and how much the Obamas were held in such esteem? Is it appropriate to sort of bust people's bubble about Obama, or do you know what I mean? Or do you just kind of let them, have their hero worship in their own space and, just leave it alone? Or do you actively try to get them to take the red pill? No, you need to see the light on what this dude was really about.
Yeah, well, first of all, it starts off with the relationship that you have with the person, right? Because you can come in, if they love Obama and you say, fuck Obama, they just gonna say, fuck you. And keep it moving, right? And you've gained nothing. So first of all, you have to have a relationship with somebody. And I think the biggest thing is that you have to kind of expose the contradiction, because a lot of what they're attached to when it comes to Obama is it's a surface level thing. It's this empty symbolism that he often offers and the talking points that are backed up by the mainstream media. Obama did this today. Obama did that, without really getting to the meat of what he did. You show a couple of examples and show what happened. You show exactly what happened in Libya, how life was before the U.S. entered and how life is now, right? You can show exactly these kind of things that the Democratic Party has done. The evidence is there, it's just not publicized. So that's really where you go to people, is you show them the contradiction. You show them his relationship with businesses and the banks and all these kind of things. You show them all these contradictions, and that's really what you give to folks, and you sit with them. And either they have to live with a clear contradiction, which a lot of folks don't want to do because you have to constantly lie to yourself. But just to touch on what we just had finished, because that was a great point about those people that were sitting at the table. I think that how Obama's ideas get reinforced a lot is through this kind of new elite class, right? I'm talking about the entertainment class. I'm talking about kind of the bourgeois college people, my place, I guess, in society now we will talk about. Those people who, again, kind of reinforce this idea that America is redeemable. They sell Barack Obama to the masses all the time. And those are the folks that have to be delegitimized as well. And it's happening. You can see it.
Mm-hmm. Onyesonwu, let me give you a chance to respond or hop in on that point also about demystifying Obama to people, to a large group. Most of the Black community holds the Obamas, in high esteem. And is it worth it to us to advance politically and to demystify the myth of Barack Obama?
I absolutely think it's worth it, and I actually think it's extremely essential at this particular point in history, because he was a strategy of counterinsurgency that targeted us. He made us believe in the American empire to an extent that we had not before. And now you see this kind of rightward shift happening in the politics of African people. Kamala Harris's ascendancy really shows that, because she was a prosecutor. She built her career, her political life on, dehumanizing her own people. And you have African people, poor and working class African people being well, that was her job, so it's fine. And that would not have been the case like 10 years ago. And I really feel like Barack Obama was a big part of that. So I do think it's extremely important for us to smash the myth, because they're going to do it again. They're going to use the strategy again because it was so effective. I think she's like the next iteration of it. But I do think like meeting people where they're at, showing them contradictions that they can't ignore. And actually Barack Obama himself has been very helpful for that recently, because the veil is kind of cracking because he keeps talking. And the things that he's saying are like, so you're just like, that's racist. You sound like an old white man. Like you're just like, he's like so blatantly like, just conservative and reactionary. And people are starting to see it for themselves, starting to be like, why are you talking to us like this? And so what I like to do as people start to like recognize it is like point back to the times when he said, pull your pants up. Point back to the times when he was telling African men, you have to stay and raise your kids and stop feeding your children chicken. Point back to the time when he went to Africa and told them to stop blaming colonialism right before he drastically expanded the US military footprint in Africa through AFRICOM. So just like point back at all the times he himself showed who he was so people can see for themselves. And it's actually pretty effective.
Guys, we're going to leave the conversation there. I mean, amazing. Listen, if we were to pull all the examples of Obama being on some bullshit, and again, listen, the reason we are singling out Barack Obama is because he holds himself up as this standard bearer for Black America and has been so instrumental in the incrementalization of, our progress, sort of Negro whispering our whole community. Like, if we just keep doing this, then, we keep voting Democrat, we will be free in 1,000 years. So just keep voting for the next 1,000 years and we will eventually earn our free. I mean, come on, y'all. It's 2020. We off that, sir. That shit that worked in 2008, that shit is not going to work in 2021. So I think it's so important for us to bring that to everybody's attention. Thank you both for being here with me today. Taure Brown, Onyesonwu Chatoyer, such a lovely multisyllabic name. Thank you so much, dears, for joining us on this particular topic. I really appreciate what y'all had to say.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Hey, gang, I also want to thank Ricci Sergienko from the People's City Council for stopping by. Let me read us some comments because y'all had my producer, Genevieve Montagnard. She was in the comments section working extremely hard, pulling out these comments for us. So let me get to some of these. Pause says, Obama is on a trajectory to be revealed as the original creator of the world that of the way the word, Jesus, let me start over. Obama is on a trajectory to be revealed as original creator of the world the way he's going. He is so prolific in his contribution to life with the straight face emoji. Who would stop him from rewriting history to stay on top? Nobody's going to stop him. I was watching that Breakfast Club interview and I got to say, I'm not a fan of the Breakfast Club. They asked a question or two that I actually thought was pretty interesting, but don't watch it because it's the Breakfast Club. Anyway, Dara D. Royst says, get him, Kim. Well, it ain't just me. Everybody took a shot at Obama today. All right, let me get one more up in here. Who else we got? We got No Play. Obama is the embodiment of liberals. He has tricked Black people into thinking the establishment will solve their problems. I don't know if that's true. I don't think that Black people have ever really looked to the government to solve our problems, but it is just the simple fact that number one, we pay to be here. God damn it. We pay taxes and we don't get the Black folks discount. I can tell you, I didn't get a Black woman's discount on my tuition or on my housing, on a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? So we pay top dollar to live in this country, especially for poor people in this country. It's way more expensive to be poor than it is to be rich. So it's like, no, we want some say, goddammit. And we want our freedom. And lastly, let me get one more. Black Magic is definitely a fan of Sister Onyesonwu. So shout out to Black Magic. We appreciate you watching us, sis. Hey, gang, that is the show. So we appreciate everybody who has taken some time to watch us today. Don't forget, go to the Burn It Down with Kim Brown YouTube channel, like and subscribe. Hey, we're almost to 500 subscribers, which I'm very excited about. So we need to get to 1,000 because I told y'all, YouTube be acting like some little hoes. So we got to get to 1,000 subscribers so we can unlock all the features of our channel and do cool shit that, other channels do. So I appreciate y'all's time again today. We will see y'all on Tuesday for the next episode and installment of Burn It Down with Kim Brown. Y'all have a great weekend. COVID is still out here jumping on people. Wear your mask, wash your hands, social distance. See y'all later. Bye.